Have you ever passed a hitchhiker and thought they looked a bit strange, or just sensed something was wrong or dangerous about them? There was a time when hitchhiking was not only common but relatively safe too. Not so much now though. We see a hitchhiker that gives us the creeps and our minds turn to serial killers and psychos. But what if the hitchhiker thumbing a ride was even scarier than that? What if it wasn't even human? One of my high school teachers had a job at a small college in Montana when he was just a young newlywed, and he told me a story of something that happened to him there in Montana. One night, on his long commute home, he was driving down a lonely road past field after field of corn when he saw a hitchhiker. Now bear in mind, this happened decades ago in rural Montana, so he pulled his old truck over to pick up this hitchhiker without giving it much of a second thought. The hitchhiker was dressed in a really old, outdated suit and wore a strangely big, stylish hat on his head. My teacher described him as looking like someone from the 1940s. So the hitchhiker gets in the truck and sits next to my teacher without saying a single word. So my teacher asks him where he needs to go, and the guy just lifted one hand and gestured it forward on the road ahead of them, like a traffic cop or something. A bit weird, thought my teacher, but it's still cool, so he started driving. They're driving along, and still the hitchhiker hasn't said a word. He just pulled his hat down as though he was sleeping, and they rode along in silence. Then suddenly he tips his hat up, looks out the passenger side window and says,
"Stop the car, now!"
My teacher didn't need to be told twice, so he pulls the truck over and lets him out. The guy stands on the side of the road for a couple of seconds and then sprints into the field beside the road. My teacher sat and watched in bemusement until he couldn't see him anymore in the tall grass. It was so bizarre, he said, but the guy wasn't dangerous, so he just pulled back onto the road and continued his drive home. Well, a few minutes later, that's a few minutes, not seconds, my teacher is going along the road and he checks his rearview mirror where, to his disbelief, he sees the hitchhiker on all fours running, or maybe crawling, but fast, right behind the truck at what he called an unhuman speed. And he had this sort of distorted look on his face. So instinct kicked in and he just floored it, managing to coax his old truck up to a dangerous speed. After a minute or so, he managed to outrun the guy, or the thing, chasing him, and he slowed the truck down a little. Now, he wasn't too far from home at this stage, but my teacher pulled over at the next gas station and called his wife to tell her what had just happened, but also to tell her to lock up the house right away. His wife thought he was joking, and when he asked why she thought it was a joke, she said that one of her co-workers told her the exact same story earlier that day and said the same thing had happened to him. She thought maybe they were both in on the joke and were teasing her about an urban legend or something. Anyway, my teacher assured her that he wasn't lying. It had truly just happened, and she eventually believed him. I actually met this teacher's wife later at a fundraiser the school was running, and I made a point of asking her about it. She vouched for everything he said, 100%. The first thing I thought of on reading of this man's experience was a skinwalker. Skinwalkers are believed by the Navajo people to be witches of sorts who have the ability to shapeshift into animals. Most often they are seen in the form of wolves or foxes, cougars and dogs and bears, but they can take the shape of any animal. I'm actually working on a video which is dedicated to exploring skinwalkers, but I wanted to share this account here as it's a great reminder that a hitchhiker in a long coat and hat or standing in the shadows of the night could be absolutely anything. Well, the driver in this next true story most certainly didn't pick up a skinwalker, but whatever it was no less terrifying. But first, if you enjoy my videos, please take a moment to subscribe and like. I really appreciate it. They seem like such little things, but they help me enormously, and YouTube will support my channel if they see that you enjoy my videos. Now we're off to Pakistan for the story of a hitchhiker that will make your skin crawl. It happened sometime in the late 60s. I lived in Pakistan then, in a mountain region, very beautiful. I was driving home at night along a road in the middle of the mountain forest. It was dark and there was fog laying along patches of the road, but the night sky was bright enough to drive comfortably. I saw a man up ahead, standing on the side of the road, and this was in the middle of nowhere. The fog where he stood kept me from seeing his face, but I figured he was a long way from anywhere and I might as well help him out. So I stopped the car and the guy got in the back. I asked him if he wanted to come sit in the front and he just shook his head no. I figured I wasn't going to get any conversation from the guy, so I just kept driving. After only a couple of minutes, I heard him muttering to himself, like he was having a quiet conversation with himself, and instinctively, thinking it was weird and maybe feeling a bit nervous, I turned around to look at the guy. Well, our eyes met and he says to me in an unmistakably old woman's voice,
"I don't think that's a good idea. You don't want to look at me."
All my senses were on fire. What was it? It looked like a human man, but its eyes were wrong. To this day, I can't put my finger on it. Was it the colour or the pupils, or were they deep set? I don't know for sure, but they were strange. They were wrong. So I quickly just turned back to face the road and kept on driving, utterly terrified now of what this thing in the back seat was and what it planned to do with me. I was getting closer to my home, and I remember the closer I got, the more nervous I became. I didn't want it to know where I lived. Then, as I drove by the old village graveyard, he says in a deep male voice,
Stop, right here.
I jumped on the brake. I couldn't stop the car fast enough. I was sweating, my skin was crawling. I wanted him out of that car. The man then offered to pay me. Without turning around, I said, "No, that's not necessary," or something like that. But he insisted, and he thrust a 5 rupee bill forward, just level with my shoulder. Without turning, I took the bill from his hand and thanked him. He got out of the car without another word. The moment he shut the car door, I quickly swung my head round to look at him, and he wasn't there. I looked all around, and he was gone. I don't know who or what he was, but he wasn't human. To this day, I've never picked up another hitchhiker, and I've held on to the 5 rupee bill. I'm not sure why. I just feel like it would be very bad fortune to part with it. You know, I'm sure the vast majority of hitchhiking interactions go without incident, even today, but geez, when they go bad, they go seriously bad. I'm all for the kind gesture and helping out someone in need, but there's a lot to be said for listening to our intuition, paying attention to the unsettling feeling in the pit of your stomach, you know. Do you follow your instincts when it comes to sensing bad vibes? Or do you just shrug it off as imagination? Well, if you enjoyed this video, I think you'll like the one on screen now too. Take a look and let me know. I'd like to send a big-hearted thanks and love to my gorgeous patrons. quietly supporting me. I really appreciate it. It's a strange world. Keep your eyes and ears open and remember to listen to your intuition. Cheerio!